welcome to another Ljubljana Talks right here at IBTM 2024. And with Gorazd, we have another fantastic guest, of course, dressed to the occasion, Heather Gallagher from CG Presents. This is a great honor to have you. I mean, I don't think we ever talked to anyone dressed up as a butterfly, I guess?
Fairy.
A fairy, okay.
Fairy. I'll come back as a butterfly next time.
Okay.
Yeah,
You see,
no
I'm poorly trained in recognizing different outfits, but definitely your outfit connects to your story.
Yes.
And your story is connected to the Burning Man, the most famous festival in the world. So
yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, that's a very big question. Let's start with Burning Man does not consider itself to be a festival.
Okay.
Right? So a festival has a certain connotation where there's a main stage and headliners programmed, and maybe you stand in a crowd and consume entertainment from, that's been curated for you. Whereas Burning Man is an event, it's a city, and it's co-created. So the participants and the attendees are bringing most of the content and setting up their own stages, and they are generating the experience for each other. So it's not a consumer activity, it's an artist creative activity. So it's a little detail, it's not a festival, but it's an understandable mistake to make, no worries. And let's see, part of the reason I'm dressed in my fairy wings is because I'm going to give a keynote here in a couple of hours, and one of Burning Man's principles that sort of shaped its culture is radical self-expression. And so that means speaking, giving, performing, creating, expressing yourself.
So no alter ego, just straight on.
But I'm not necessarily pretending to be a fairy, though there are certain days when I'm a fairy, and I'm not trying to make a new persona. This is just an expression of who I wanted to be today.
Top.
And I'm not hurting anybody, and it's fun, and it's a conversation starter, and it makes things more interesting. Right?
It feels great.
Doesn't it?
I must admit, it feels great.
And
Definitely.
it works out well because I match your set and everything. Yeah.
But can you tell us more about these principles? I like them very much. They changed the way how the industry is actually looking on events. It was regenerative before we even know what is that, So can you tell us more about it?
Sure. An important thing to know about the principles is they actually were developed quite, the founder of the event was quite reluctant to develop them. Mm-hmm. And it was because people from all over the world were saying, what's the secret sauce? What's going on here? Why is this place not like any other? And he would walk around the office and be like, what am I supposed to do? Chisel them on rocks and stand on the hill? He didn't want it to seem prescriptive. But eventually, we said, look, it's okay to do. And so what he did was describe what was already happening there. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't necessarily a bunch of people sitting down ahead of time and saying, this is how it will be. It was a bunch of people making it the way they wanted it to be. And then later somebody trying to boil it down to the essence. So there's 10 principles. They generally describe what the experience is and the value systems of the community. I probably won't get them all off the top of my head, even though I worked for Burning Man for 20 years. Participation. Everybody's expected to participate in some way, right? You might be building, you might be singing, you might be creating art. You might just show up and go to other people's experiences and play and dance and participate, but you're not necessarily just sitting in a chair consuming an experience. Gifting. So we're giving of ourselves and giving to others. I've got extra jambon or bacon or a dance or art or little necklaces that I made by hand, and I'm giving away things or moments. Stuff is overrated, but I'm doing it without expecting return, right? And this is an abundance state of mind where everyone has had to prepare so much to be out there that they end up over prepared and then really can be very generous with each other when, all the time. I won't go through all of them. Another great one is radical self-reliance. Okay, so Burning Man takes place in this ridiculous environment, a harsh desert, several hours away from everything. It gets hot, it gets cold, it gets dusty, it rains. It is serious survival camping. And everyone is expected to show up with what they need to survive and thrive in this desert environment. And then that starts to seep out into your regular world where you're like, I'm traveling internationally, I need everything, I can't count on that, or I don't want to be a burden to other people because I didn't do my homework. So again, so many people are so prepared, and then there's the spirit of gifting. I'll rattle through some of the ones very quickly and make sure I try and get them all. Decommodification. It's about connecting as people first and not business transactions or business cards. Those things happen later, or people have to buy things beforehand, but while you're there, nothing's for sale. And it's nobody's logos. There's no, unless it's a mock thing where we're making fun of the logos. Leave no trace. It's the largest leave no trace event on the planet. So everybody brings everything they need, and then everybody has to take everything, their own trash, their own recycling, no cigarette butts on the ground.
Fashion, I would say, really.
Ahead of fashion,
It's the right way. It's the right way. And it makes you think through your entire relationship with stuff. You have to plan ahead of time, like, what am I going to do with those banana peels? Because they're not so fun after a couple of days.
It's a very difficult
we can
thing.
keep going and going, but the 10 principles of Burning Man they were described what had emerged at the event, and then as the culture and other groups around the world started creating their own versions officially, they have to be in line with the 10 principles. And then you start to realize that almost everything you do in your life can align with them, but there's absolutely a place for commercial relationships and all that. But if you put the relationship first, then the partnerships are better in the end.
I think that Burning Man has created something that most events want to create, and that is the sense of community.
Yes.
Now, of course, allowing the radical self-expression, as you put it, and allowing this openness, of course, helps, because everybody sees the images, they see the content, they see the happening.
Yes.
It's an alternative dimension in a way.
Yes.
How would you say that this has changed in those 20 years that you were a part of this?
How Burning Man might have changed. Everybody who shows up for their first time, minds blown, hearts changed, lives changed forever. And there are people who like to say, oh, it's gotten too big or this or that. But that's nonsense. It is, without a doubt, no matter where you've come from or what you've experienced, it is a singular opportunity and moment and expression of creativity on the planet. And certainly people have started bringing more to it. And some people with greater affluence bring things to give and share. So the spirit of it hasn't changed. There's always little nuances of cultural where maybe we're bringing people along and mentoring them if they didn't get it. But it's gotten more people, and it's become much better known on the planet. But it's absolutely, like you say, stepping into another dimension, and it's sort of a city with an operating system that it's not sustainable for us to all live like that all the time, not recommended. But it starts to really influence who you are, and it doesn't matter. Like, has it changed? It's gotten bigger. More people know about it. Bigger stuff comes out, but there's still no quality control. It's still all DIY, and whoever you are and whenever you show up is going to be the right moment, and it's still going to be a massive transformational experience. Even I, who have been 25, 26 times, even as staff establish, jaded people, every time we go, it's different, and it's an amazing experience, and it's different every time. So it's just a wild ride, no matter when you join.
Well, and then climate change
Yes.
changed the game, and suddenly you became from heroes. You need to play the game around the narrative from hero to zero.
Yeah.
How did you control this actually in that 2003 year, which was really a kind of
The 2023 year. Yeah.
yeah.
It has rained out there for years.
Yeah.
And
This is not something which is
this is not,
Yeah.
this was not, okay, so, and it had rain pockets and times. I mean, you're very specifically talking about climate change, but it floods out in that.
Okay,
It's a
okay. I
prehistoric
didn't know
late
that. I
bed.
didn't
It's a
know that,
prehistoric late bed.
Okay.
And there have been years where there was so much rain and snow over the winter that we
Okay.
weren't certain if it was going to dry out enough to have the event, but we did. And inevitably, we knew that someday it was gonna rain significantly.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a statistical likelihood given the amount, of weather that blows through there and the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So the organizers, we had been workshopping this for decades,
okay.
and literally decades, and had been preparing those citizens of Black Rock City on what to do. And saying this could happen, and you need to have things, and this is why everyone brings extra bacon or extra whiskey, and literally to the point of buckets, and here's how you have to make your own toilet if you need to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, which is gross, but because that's a legitimate concern for a mass gathering of humans. We have pages and pages and pages of how to prepare for these eventualities. So this time it happened, right? And Mother Nature does not listen no matter how many meetings you have about the weather. But the event organizers, we had been planning, we had contingency plans. And so I wasn't working, but I was adjacent to all my friends who were. And a lot of us, we might literally, the ones who had to make calls on city and driving and traffic, a lot of us were having the time of our life as organizers, because this was something new, and dirty, and what shoes do you wear because the mud sticks, and you put socks and shoes and bags, and you don't really ever get the opportunity to workshop your rain contingency plans like that. Quick story. So of course the media. So most burners were prepared to wait it out. Okay. And they knew. And then there's some percentage for whom they were not quite prepared. But most of the people who knew what to do, everyone forms communities. They help each other out. Come sleep in my RV. It's a new way of doing it. But, some people came out for the first time and had the time of their life, right? But as organizers, some other people, like the state, tried to let's make this into a big issue. And the local groups during some of the cooperator meetings said, everyone went around and this is the most amazingly run event that you could ever imagine. Okay, it takes an exceptionally tight container to manage something that sort of feels chaotic and organized, but is really, really not. And every single group, it's so wonderful when you do these production meetings and everybody is like, this is the situation, this is the situation, this is the situation, nailed it, this is happening, we've got this, we deployed that. And the other cooperating agencies, like the local, cops and all that, they looked at the state and they said, there is nobody who is better prepared with this situation than the Burning Man organizers, and you need to let them do their job and leave them alone. Like the hair on my arms stands up doing it, saying that. Because when we workshop this, we were actually doing, we would draw little cards off a table and play each other's roles and have 5 more layers of complexity that we were navigating. So we've been planning for this forever, and then we got to go have a bunch of muddy fun, and so it was kind of a new challenge.
Community comes in place.
100%.
Not insurance companies or whatsoever, but
no.
the sense of belonging to
the
city. You created out of nothing. Actually.
And now if you didn't make friends with your camp neighbors, you knew them by the end, and they would share with you, and you would share with them, and then you have your little local partying, and you're going to remember that and tell stories about it for the rest of your lives. And do a bunch of laundry, and and maybe take a year off or whatever. But it was an inevitability, and it happened, and it could happen again, but probably not for a while.
You are creating utopia actually in this world, which is a little bit dystopic, I would say somehow. And that's what I really like personally. I'm really a big fan of what you are doing and what you did. Also, the budget was publicly announced. That's the only event in the world which publicly actually, which puts on the website your budget.
It's a nonprofit. It has to by law. Yeah. And then there's a whole explainer that goes into it.
It could be a wrap-up of the budget, but you put everything there,
You were asking me at some point, can we trust the numbers? It's a tax return. How much? I mean, as much as you know. It's very legitimately, it's a nonprofit. It's required to disclose. Okay. Of course, your operational buckets and your tax return buckets, there's few things get lumped together that, don't make sense, but it's what you have to do to get the paperwork done. But yeah, that's what it takes to build a city. And you say it's utopia. Yes. And it's also, it's broken, and it's profound and profane at the same exact time. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
I mean, definitely from also the example you gave on the 2023 experience, I think Burning Man, because of the creation, the goal, the vision, is probably the most organized event in the world, I would dare to say. And I mean, because you are going to a place without any infrastructure, you're going to a place that is so remote in a way. So there's a lot of contingency plans. I really liked this example you gave of how you were testing different roles and how, because
different footwear in the mud.
It's a very interesting thought process when you are trying to take an event outside of a meeting room. I mean, Gorazd and myself, we are dressed up to the occasion as we usually are in
fairy wings next time.
So you're a fairy, we're fairly boring. So, compared to you, we're really, really boring. So, how do you see the two worlds coming together? How do you see yourself? You're dressed to the occasion today here at IBTM. How do you see? Where can the two worlds come together?
Well, you should come to my keynote, because I'm going to give everybody permission to step a little out of the box or to come at it creatively. And I mean, I firmly believe in the right costume for the party. Of course, I'm bringing a little taste of the Burning Man experience here. But, we need to remember, if you're that good at your job, right? If you're that good, we can have a little fun. We can have a little sense of humor. We can invite people into make-believe worlds. We can trust that we can connect as human beings first. And if you had wings and you had wings and maybe we have an adventure.
We can fly, definitely.
And maybe we have an adventure, or we share memories first. We know that later, when I need a business, podcast, the business will flow after the human connection. Yeah. And the expression and the creativity and the permission for a little bit of silliness. I mean, you've got to nail the job. Mm-hmm. Right, you've got to nail the job. You don't look like this without doing your taxes. And I'm not a shoplifter, none of that stuff. Right, you got to really be great at your job, but then you can get away with a little of this. And why not? Right, we're stimulating community, we're stimulating innovation, we're making memories and true bonds with human beings, and everything else will flow from that.
Because you just. I gotta ask you this. Did you come by metro today?
I didn't come by metro today because I had to come here early and tape a surprise to the bottom of the seat. So I was in my sweatpants crawling around on the floor doing the dirty work. But I would. Now, I'm not with the wings on just because of practicality. I have a little bag, and I would have. It depends on the arrival, but I 100% would travel like this.
Because it's something very, very important you said. You as a person, you are following the rules. You do your job. You do your diligence, right?
Yes.
And you are therefore allowed to step out of the box.
go above it. I'm not just
I mean,
meeting minimum requirements.
Perhaps not even thinking about the box.
Yeah, like box.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, and we are sometimes confined by certain limitations that we have set up as, let's call it, it's always been done this way, or this is how it's supposed to be. How do you see, because I'm going off the script now,
Oh, great.
but how do you see,
See, it's already working.
oh yeah, how do you see the meetings industry as a industry that basically has its mission in bringing people together, creating creativity, creating content, make them happy. How do you actually break those boundaries that we have created by formalization?
Yeah.
That makes us the person that at the end delivers the KPIs and pays the taxes, and
Yes.
to get out.
Yeah, great question. I mean, when we're bringing people together, be it multi-day campouts in the desert or festivals or conventions, we are helping to weave the social fabric of the planet, right? And the business fabric. But connecting people with each other is one of the most sacred and powerful things we can do, because it's helping to build bridges and form relationships, right? And giving people memories and opportunities to connect is, again, I keep saying this, you've got to trust, but from that, the commerce will flow. And there are some events where people don't even have things for sale, or they don't even have, and it's a delicate line, because there's information you want to share, right? But is somebody going to remember your information because of a card in your pocket, or are they going to remember it because they had some sort of ball pit, or they went on a field trip? So the industry, it has to figure out that you want to have the information dissemination, but then are there areas that can be more adventuresome or full of experiences, or where people don't have their business cards, but they eventually get connected? And it's about taking some risks. It's about being curious with how can you shake up the format, and maybe there's ways to be more optimized around this. I mean, it's about permission, right? And daring to be weird, daring to say, you know what, my business is going to stand on its own, but let me do something that maybe is going to push people's buttons a little in the right way, or it's going to create moments that people are going to remember forever. And I know they'll exchange business cards by the coffee machine later. I mean, so I'm here to give everybody permission. Like, why not? Why? Like, who wrote those rules, and why are you still following them?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to the script. I need to ask you about the future, about the 2025 event.
Okay.
What is going on? What can we expect? Again, another edition or something completely new?
Oh, no. I mean, the very last statement on the Burning Man mission statement is, we will always burn the man. Okay. And Black Rock City, the event, there were years early on where we had to do cost-saving measures, or maybe trim a couple of roles, or, economize on some things. What happened was, probably a lot of people from 2020, some people from 2023 were like, okay, that was a lot. Maybe we need to, just take a moment. And then also the economy, with, a lot of people in the Bay Area getting laid off, and just some, don't even talk about politics right now, because that's a terrifying thing as well. But what enabled was a lot of new people to have the opportunity. I have friends who I've been trying to get to go for years, who finally got tickets and they were able to go. So those people are now fresh meat. They're new, right? New blood. And they are going to be absolutely as impassioned about it as the rest of us have been. And they'll bring two friends, and they'll bring two friends, and so on and so on. And the people who maybe had to take a year off because that was just a lot for them to deal with, they'll be like, okay, all right, let's come back again. So it's, it's a little bit of a healthy belt tightening, a little bit of just a response to what's going on in the world. But as we used to say, what would happen if the world was a place where Burning Man, what it was offering, was no longer needed. But we're not there yet. And I think that maybe this opened the doors for some new people to come in and to take away the experience. So Burners are the kind of people who are like, we're not just going to come back, but we're going to come back bigger and stronger than ever before.
Amazing. I recognize Burning Man people community as active, actually, as active citizens, not passive citizens. But now we live in dystopia again, so the green agenda is not there yet, not there anymore. So sustainability is not a topic. The Mother Earth is not in a big troubles. So what can you say about it? I'm not going into politics, but I like the approach that this community was active, a community of active citizens. Not passive.
There's two things. One of the principles we didn't talk about was civic engagement.
Yeah.
And so we encourage people to really take active roles in their local government and to pay attention and to vote. And we don't care who. But we kind of care who. But just to, and I've been on boards for, San Francisco development projects for a long, long time. And so we really say, like, if you want to reshape an industry or perhaps slightly tweak the environments around you, you need to show up and run for office and engage in the process and the constructs that we abide by as citizens and slightly refine it while you're in from the, doing it. But you got to show up. Now, on the sustainability front, so back in 2007, the Burning Man theme was actually the Green Man. And the founder who created the themes, he's no longer with us, Larry Harvey, may he rest in peace. He created as a man's relationship with nature. He didn't really mean for it to become a sustainability moment, but myself and several members of the staff said, this is coming, and we better prepare for it. So I literally spent one day a week for an entire year meeting with members of the community and looking through every single aspect of our operations and just sort of kick the tire. So what's it like to do biodiesel and solar arrays and sustainable products at our staff commissary? And we did a big push through, and in some places things make sense and in some places it didn't. And we then had a pavilion all about sort of biofuels and algae, things like that. And then now there's a lot of sustainability that comes out of different programs of the nonprofit. So there's labs that are innovating about various, how to live off the, land and do it more green. One more thing about that, we had to look at it really at a meta level. So you have all these people coming to the desert. Yes, that's a lot of fuels and transportation. But what else would they be doing on their vacation? They'd be flying someplace else. They'd be living in an air-conditioned thing. They'd be doing more to the planet, if not more so, because now some of them are camping in tents, doing it, and they're having to pick up their own trash. They're maybe recycling for the first time. They're living and thinking about it and being in a culture that, that really supports this. So maybe some of them went back and started recycling. Maybe some of them went home and started a recycling program in their community. And so, for that 1 week a year, and the fire and all that, but it's touching people and hopefully transforming them. So in the end, the long-term overall benefits and awareness that people might take away from the experience was going to hopefully counterpoint that moment in time. And it was very interesting to try and measure that and really look at it the biggest picture.
So you can say, and you did say, you changed Burning Man. But how did Burning Man change you, Heather?
Burning Man changes me every day, every time. It still does. You know what? I'm a Halloween baby, so I was already creative. I had friends who were rock and roll people, so I already knew about having a good time. And I always knew it was better to go be a part of the show than to be a consumer of the show. I knew that for my friends who were performers, they fed off having us in the crowd in our silly costumes and all that as well. I think it changed me by just helping me step more fully into who I am and who I can be, right? And this is just fun, and it just taught me to really, I stepped into frame on a life and a world the way I knew it could be, and gave me permission to do that, and then gave me permission to help other people understand that they too can write their own rules. So yeah, it gave me permission to just be the biggest and best version of myself, and I keep trying.
An amazing conversation. We are slowly coming to the end of the time that we have today. There's a lot of questions I would like to ask, but I think quite a lot of people that will be watching this or are watching this will probably say, wow, what a great idea, what an amazing experience. I want to be a part of it. How does one do that?
Well, first of all, don't try this at home. It is a major undertaking to build a city in the desert from nothing. So, and that's been played. That card's been played. For people who maybe a trip to the States is a big lift, there are regional groups all around the world. So there's a website, regionals.burningman.org, and there's a map of the globe with little flames all across the planet, and there are local community contacts who have been officially vetted and supported by volunteers, by the organization, and they are doing local community development. Sometimes they have a weekly, monthly bar meetup. Sometimes they are producing their own massively mature events with 15, 18,000 people in their own art grant program. And those contacts are there. They've got Facebook pages, all the things, and they're there to welcome new folks and to introduce them to the community and to help them plug in. And some of these local, there's maybe 80 events around the world that are like the officially recognized to be operating by the same principles. And each one has its own flavor, and they are wonderful and charming, and they're a great place to plug in, even if you can't make it to the desert. And but there will be people wearing fairy wings, I can almost guarantee it.
Amazing. So Heather, we usually finish with some fire questions to you. Really short ones,
Okay.
Mine is really simple one. Cycling or walking?
Pedal assist tricycle with a cart full of stuff. Because my golf cart's gone.
Fire or water?
Water.
Okay. Thanks for being our guest, Heather. Stay tuned. We are coming back in a few moments, and see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.